Episodes of Horror with Donna and Eric. I'm Donna.
No, I'm Eric.
And with us today, we have Holly Rae Garcia, who will be at Texas AuthorCon and Book Festival. Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Great.
Doing
I'm glad you
good.
got on.
Yeah,
Thank you.
glad to have you on the show. Um, so we just have a few icebreaker questions to get things started. So the first question is, Freddie, Michael, or Jason?
Hmm. Jason.
All right. That's a good way to
Jason.
start.
Yeah,
Is that your
The
favorite?
right answer.
that's the right answer.
There is a right answer here.
Yeah.
I think Jason X is one of the best slasher, rewatchable, fun time things out there. So you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it gets near as much love as it should. But yeah, I think the whole franchise, is darn near perfect for what it is, And then you look at Myers is fine, but the movies are so jumbled. It's really difficult to find any consistency within it. And
Yeah, they
Freddy's
break their own rules.
everybody loves Freddy though, because he talks. So,
Freddie's my husband Ryan's favorite, but I
Mhm.
hope he doesn't watch this because I don't really care about it.
Well, I like the original. If you take the first and the third, those are two of my favorite movies, period. But
3 is great.
yeah,
Yeah, 3 is really good.
but as a series as a whole, I think Friday the 13th delivers every time. So
Freddie breaks rules too, like 3, where he like walks through walls and it's supposed to be their real body, and so they break some of their own canon too. So I don't know if any of them don't break rules.
sure.
Yeah. So now tell us, werewolves or vampires?
Werewolves.
All right, look at you just
All
batting
right.
1,000 here.
Yeah, good answer. Good answer.
It's all day and every day.
Yeah. Now, would you consider a werewolf a cryptid? I've never heard it referred to as that. Would it be a cryptid?
I would, but is it not?
I don't know.
Eric?
I don't know. Boy, I'm sure there's some academic that would sit here and give us
Warm-blooded furry thing that lives in the woods. I figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it matters the situation, and how you're
Yeah.
looking at it. But yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because I've never ever thought of a werewolf being a cryptid before. Like for me, there's cryptids over here, and then there's like creatures, which I know they're the same thing. I hope that makes sense. You have like your vampires and your werewolves and witches and stuff over here, and then you have like Mothman and Loch Ness and
Yeah, it's almost as
Koplik.
if it's like traditional monsters versus so almost new age. The cryptids almost all feel, even though some of them have longer backstories, they still feel more present, more now. People are starting to talk about them. Less so like if we talk about vampires and werewolves and stuff, they're kind of their own thing. So
I
I
guess
could
most
see how
cryptids
you would.
weren't people, so maybe that's a rule.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Although, I
Now I'm
mean, who
gonna have to
knows?
do research on cryptids now. Thank
Yeah.
you for the homework, Holly. We'll have to do an
You,
episode on that, Eric.
yeah, we'll have to sit
Cryptids
down.
versus monsters or whatever.
Do you have a favorite werewolf movie?
Uh, so, I like there's a scene in Trick or Treat Count. I like the
Oh yeah,
that scene.
that's good.
It's pretty
Spoiler
Yeah.
cool.
alert. Spoiler
Yeah.
Oh
alert.
shit, yeah, spoiler. And of course the Howling. Everybody loves the Howling. It's classic. I like Dog Soldiers. I know it's lauded as a lot of people's favorites. It's
Careful.
entertaining. It's fun. But and American Werewolf in London, you've got your classics.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you prefer like a wolf-like werewolf or like the dog soldier type werewolf?
I think the Dog Soldier one's a little scarier.
Yeah.
It's always scarier when they start doing stuff
Yeah.
other than just be werewolves. So.
Yeah. And walk around. If you like dog soldiers, I got to recommend to you Sausages, The Making of Dog Soldiers by Janine Pike.
Janine's book, yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
phenomenal.
think I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, it's so good. I don't read books like that, like making of type books, but I started reading that and I could not stop. It was fantastic. I absolutely loved it.
I just love her passion for it. Like I was following her on Twitter when all that was happening, and she's so excited and so like it's if she puts half of that into the book, I knew I was gonna like the book. Like,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
it translates well.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really interesting and funny and educational because you learn about like kind of like effects and what they had to do back then.
Hmm.
Um, and on the budget that they had. Because when people think about making a movie, I mean, sometimes you don't think about budget. You're like, oh, I'm going to see this movie, and then you're like, well, why did they have that cheesy little effect or whatever? And they got to do with what's within their budget. People don't think
Mhm.
about that
I think they did
a
a great
lot.
job with the low budget. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So tell us, what is your favorite scary movie as a kid, and is it still the same today?
Not the same. So I was, you know, Flowers in the Attic,
Hmm.
Mhm.
1987, six, something like that. I was 7 or 8, and my mom wanted to go see that with some friends and didn't have anywhere to put me really. So I went along, and I was so fucking traumatized by this movie as a kid. It was definitely horror. Like now watching it, yeah, it's not really horror, but to my childhood self,
Mhm.
I couldn't eat anything with powdered sugar on it for years. Like, I was terrified of this movie. But as far as like a classic horror, probably something like Gremlins,
Mm, yeah.
something I definitely watched multiple times a year when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And I would say that Flowers is a horror for sure. I
Oh,
mean, maybe it's not as intense as something that we would see or read now, but I mean, it's definitely a horror. So
Yeah.
good.
It's funny because I see Flowers in the Attic or V.C. Andrews in general sometimes mentioned in books of horror, and I'm like, I've never read V.C. Andrews, so I don't know. I mean, I know basically about what Flowers in the Attic is about. I think pretty much everybody does, whether they've read it. But I'm like, huh, maybe I should give that a try and see.
The book's pretty different. The movie I'll always be partial to the movie just because of the impact it had on me, I think.
Yeah.
But if I was going in cold, I'd probably like the book better.
yeah, give a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would be your favorite movie now?
So, okay, wait, I have to ask a question first. Do you consider Jurassic Park horror?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to
Yeah.
call. Yeah. I
Uh,
my philosophy is everything is horror. So it just
there you
depends
go.
on who you're
Everything
talking to.
can be horrific, I guess. I love Jurassic Park, King Kong, Jaws. You're kind of biological sci-fi
Hmm.
stuff like that. um,
What's your favorite
uh,
King Kong?
Original.
Okay,
Holly
very
Rae,
cool.
original screen queen, right?
Hmm.
It's great. And I really liked Skull Island, the creatures they had on that
Oh,
one.
yeah. That was
Yeah,
a good
Really,
one.
yeah, I liked that a lot.
I'm
Yeah.
partial
Um,
to the one from the '70s, but it's probably the worst of them.
is that what is her name? She was on American Horror Story.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Um,
You know, the blonde lady.
yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff
That
Bridges
was
and
good.
boy, I never can remember that lady's name. Trying
Yeah,
to
I
think.
can't either.
She's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But
funny
her,
because my parents took me and my brother to see the 1970s version at the drive-in back when did it come out? So I was really young. And
79, I think, something like that.
yeah, so I was like 4. I had nightmares about that movie for years after that. I would wake up screaming, King Kong's gonna get me. So that is absolutely horror because it terrified me as a child.
Jessica Lange
that's it.
Yeah.
Just
and the lady or the it came out in '76.
Okay, so I was born in 75, so I probably didn't remember it from one. So
It
maybe
was a
when I was,
drive. I was gonna say if it was a drive-through, probably when they threw it up again. You know, they do that all
yeah,
the time, rotate them. And
yeah.
I saw it in the theater in Germany in probably '79.
oh.
But I just remember being even at that age imprinted by the idea of a giant monkey. So,
Yeah.
but
You
yeah, I'm
look
totally
so
with
young.
you.
You were old enough in 79 to go to a theater?
Yeah, I'm old. I just turned 49.
Okay.
We both just turned 40 now. We were both born in 75.
No
Yes.
way.
Yep,
Yep.
in April.
Happy late birthday to both of you.
Thanks.
Yep, I forget that he's my like exactly my age. because he seems so much younger than me. Like, just he looks younger, I think,
Well,
than
that's nice of you to
49.
say. But it's probably because I act like an infant. So
I don't know. I can't say on that, but that's funny.
Um, so do you have a favorite horror novel?
Several. That's like picking a favorite kid. You can't do
Yeah.
that. Um, I like stuff from like Metamorphosis uh to like I Am Legend. I really loved Geek Love. Did you read that, Catherine Dunn?
No, I haven't, and I've been meaning to read it for years.
Rebecca, of course, the Gothic, and there was a discussion the other day about whether or not that was horror, but Gothic is horror. So,
hmm yeah,
as
for
far as like
sure.
new stuff, probably Chad Lutzke's of Foster Homes and Flies really impacted me on what horror could be when I read
hmm
it. I was just getting into like the indie horror scene and getting kind of a, I still read Kuntz and King and all of them, but I hadn't really read much indie. And I was listening to some podcasts and they recommended him. And so I looked him up and that book blew me away. Like it was different than anything I'd read. And it affected me like emotionally. And I didn't realize horror could do that at the time. Of course,
hmm
now, horror's, like you said, in everything. But back then
Yeah.
I was stupid. So.
Fact that I was stupid.
Well, was there a specific book that made you think I want to do this? Is there one that inspired you to pick up the pen and write?
Hmm.
And it may
No,
not be. I was just
yeah.
curious.
So I read a lot,
hmm
and I remember like I was in a book club, still am. Technically, I haven't been in a while, but and I would say, well, the book kind of sucked, but they wrote a book and I didn't. So what do I know? I so I was like, well, what if I tried to write a book just out of the fucking blue about 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Not the way to do it. Yeah. I have not been writing since I was a fetus, like a lot of people. I just wanted to see if I could. I was a big reader and wanted to see if I could do the thing that I loved to enjoy so much. And it's fucking hard. And
hmm
Mhm.
I definitely baptism by fire. Uh, and I started by writing my first book, which was really dumb. Um, but then along the way, like I was writing short stories and things, trying to figure out what I liked to write. I'm very analytical, and I have a spreadsheet of all 1,100 something of my books, and I went through them and figured out what my favorites were and color coded what I liked about them and the writing styles
Oh
to try
goodness.
to figure out what I like to write. I did all sorts of weird shit just trying to figure out a voice, and it's still a work in progress. But as far as like one book, no, not really. I wish there was. But
Now,
yeah,
what book would you recommend to someone who is new to reading horror?
maybe something like I mean, Geek Love could work. That might be too graphic. Maybe like a Amakatsu, The Hunger, because it's a little pulled back, but
hmm
there's still definite horror elements, right? It's not as gruesome, maybe. Unless they
Awesome.
want to gruesome, and then you know what? Read Womb, read 100% Match, knock it out.
Right.
Yeah. Just dump right off into the deep end.
Oh, so I was recommending, I love 100% Match, love that book. And the character's voice is perfect. And I recommended it on Facebook. And some friends of mine, the next time I saw her, she goes, Holly, I read that book you recommended. I was like, whoa, that wasn't for you. Recommendation was not for you. And she read the whole thing and she thought I was definitely disturbed for liking it. But
Yeah, she'll be watching you side-eyed now from.
Yep. Yeah. That Holly. I don't know about her.
so I think about that now every time I like share what I'm reading or because Facebook's definitely our generation, right? It's more local and family and friends you've met in person. It started off that way.
hmm
When Twitter kind of imploded, I came over to Facebook a little more, and I didn't even realize the writing and reading community on Facebook, how big it is. So I've definitely gotten more like engagement and had more fun, like talking to other authors and readers.
Mhm.
but I forget there's also still that people I know. So I have lists now, and I'll share things sometimes and exclude coworkers or family or old people, like it's
Right.
Yeah.
aunts or something. I don't want to offend
What's
people.
I'm curious about this spreadsheet you're talking about. So when you went back and looked at it, what other genres were heavy in your books?
Sci-fi was big for me. And there were some like literary, right? But I would say sci-fi was probably third, and then psychological thrillers / domestic
Mm,
thrillers
yeah.
were second. Actually that was first and horror was second. And so my first book was really a psychological thriller. But and I still like I just finished reading a psychological thriller yesterday. So it's
Who's your favorite?
author for psychological
I guess who do you consider that falls into that?
what was her name? I'm terrible with names. The one I just read. I'm gonna look at my Goodreads real quick. This is why I have Goodreads. My memory is super.
I
I
love
just read
Goodreads.
it, so it would be on my like. I should know this. It was called A Perfectly Nice Couple, and who wrote it? Sorry,
No, you're
I should have
fine.
warned you. My memory's terrible.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm a big fan of Jeffrey Deaver's early stuff, and I think a lot of his stuff is psychological thrillers and stuff, like The Bone
Yeah.
Collector and that series.
Well, I feel like the domestic thrillers written by women tend to be hit stronger notes with me as a woman, as a mom, as a wife. And but like as far as psychological thrillers, like Dennis Lehane
Oh yeah,
knocks it out of the park every time. Like, yeah.
Shutter Island. If
Uh,
I think the first time you read Shutter Island, if you don't know anything about it and you haven't seen the movie, it's just perfect. The
blows you
book
away.
itself is perfect. But
His writing is just beautiful.
yeah,
Like he's who I wish I could write. Like I joke that I wish I could write dialogue like Guy Ritchie
yeah,
or Tarantino,
sure.
The dialogue is so sharp and so witty. I wish I could do stuff like that. And I like to study movies and Hitchcock, especially. He has a lot of really good interviews about his use of tension and
Hmm.
suspense and all of that, and how to put it into stories. Um, so I pull from a lot of different things like that. So
Yeah, I know
movies are big.
people. I just say movies are perfect, and I
Mhm.
joke about it all the time. My wife likes to watch Hallmark, and so I'll sit down and watch it, and they're perfectly structured. If you want to find a good structure for a story, watch a Hallmark movie.
That's true.
It's exactly what you need to do, and then you can go in there and mess with it, which is what I do the whole time we're watching it. Is I change the dialogue and the story, and I give it twists and turns while she's trying to enjoy it. But the structure itself, shockingly, every time, and that's why
My
they do so well, is because it's a cookie cutter kind of thing, but it follows a pattern that people enjoy. So
my favorite thing is to figure out, like, Ryan and I will watch movies and we'll talk afterwards, like, okay, it didn't really work. Why didn't it work? Was it like, and we'll like sort of have a autopsy on
mhm.
why it didn't, and kind of learn our lessons that way too, like what not to do. And what was the Hereditary? The first half of Hereditary is one of my favorite movies of all time. I hate the second half. Okay, but listen, when the did you watch it, Eric?
No, I have no idea. All I know is that Kelvin hates it.
Can I spoil it or no?
No,
Can I
keep going.
spoil
I don't care. I have no. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't.
okay, I'm gonna talk to Donna. Okay. The scene where the little girl's like leaning out the window and gets beheaded, and the brother just freezes. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And of course she's not okay. She doesn't have a head. And he like just drives. He drives home, he parks the car, he gets in bed, and then you hear the next morning the mom goes downstairs and finds this headless body in the back seat. But it was such a visceral, real reaction.
Who was
You
driving the
see so
car?
many, huh?
Who drives the car?
The brother was driving. He was
Oh, okay.
he was
I thought he
older.
was next to her. Okay, so he's an older
So
kid.
it was his fault, but the
Sure.
freezing and the denial and the if I just don't deal with it, it's not there, it didn't happen. That's such a real reaction you don't really see as often. Like I watched that scene, I rewound it probably 5 times because it's so beautifully done. as far as instead of fight or flight, people forget about freeze
Mhm.
and die. And speaking of Chad Lutzke, he wrote Cannibal Creator, and I beta read it, and one of my comments was like, this, how this person reacted was perfect. That's how people would really react in real life. And I harkened back to that scene in Hereditary, and he's like, that's exactly what I was going for, something like that scene. And so it's very impactful. That exact scene is very important to me, but the rest of the movie I don't really care about.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
you
was
told me about that because now I understand like 6 jokes that were posted by Kelvin this last week. 'Cause I
Yeah.
had no clue what it was talking about.
Yeah, that is the best part of the movie. I'm like, oh, thank God she'll stop with the tongue clicking shit.
Oh, did she have a nervous tick?
Sure.
I guess you could call it that. Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah, we got a round sound.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And you know what? She probably spent like months coming up with that, and then here you are just crapping all over it.
Dog.
That was her big. That was her big thing that she brought to the table. My
Yeah.
character's gonna do this crazy thing and annoy Donna.
Yeah.
And then annoy Donna. That's what the
Yeah.
script says. Annoy
Yeah.
Donna.
I also have the thumbs down for Midsummer.
I haven't seen
Okay.
it.
Midsummer I hated. I fell asleep the first time I tried to watch it, and very slow. But the more I watch it, the more I appreciate it and like it. It's one of those, which is like why I keep watching it if I didn't like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just kind of force yourself into it. I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
If
no,
you
I still
hear
haven't forced myself to watch it. So
really
Yeah.
either one.
nope. I don't have a ton of time to watch just extra stuff. My wife doesn't like horror. So when we sit down to watch TV, it's anything but. So
That's
and then
fair.
when I'm done with that, I don't always want to sit down and watch more stuff because I've just spent time watching stuff. So
Yeah.
it's really got to be something I'm dying to see, and rarely lately nothing's like that. So
We just saw Abigail in the theater. Have y'all
I've
seen
heard
that yet?
I have not. I've heard good
I have
things.
not. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. Yeah.
Loads of fun. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's not going to win awards, but it was a lot of fun, and I'll definitely rewatchable.
Nice.
I can't. I'm trying to think of the last recent horror movie I've seen. Terrifier 2. That's the
Oh,
last
what
thing
do you
I
think of
saw.
that one?
Oh, I like. I mean, it's over the top a little too much, but I get what the guy's doing. You know, he's just showing off now because that's what he does, the special effects. So he wants to see how much he can push it to see, you know, before they tell him he can't do something. It's all it comes across as. But I enjoy the character. I thought the little girl was great. The little
Mhm.
ghosty girl. I thought she was funny. I like the idea of the hero in this one. You could have cut 20 minutes out of this movie and it would have been perfect. So it did drag a little, but I think the first one's real fun too. Just because it's so out of the norm. I wasn't expecting half of the stuff they did um as a straight up slasher or whatever. So and the guy who
I,
plays Art is really good. So
I agree. It's good. I someone told me it was a hit. That character was based off a different movie, and I went back and watched that, and I couldn't finish it. It was terrible.
you're talking about
Uh,
Art? Yeah, he originally shows up in oh no, I can't think of what it's called.
I don't remember.
It was a series of short films. I really enjoyed it though. I enjoyed some of the shorter films. The lady that's babysitting and they have the video and they show the videos and one of them is Art and it's a different actor playing Art. And so
Okay.
it's not as strong as the guy they get to be the Terrifier in the first 2 movies. And I'm interested to see how they're going to do a Christmas movie with it.
Nice. So tell us, Holly, for people who aren't familiar with you, what genre do you write in? As you can see, I got 2 of
Um,
your covers here.
Psychological thriller and horror.
Nice.
I'm wearing that shirt actually.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, you
cool.
are. Look at that.
Lynn
Um,
Hanson did the cover for Flesh Communion, and
yeah, I remember when you did because that's recent, right? Like
it
within
just
the last year.
yeah, January. And Parachute was 2022, I think.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gaining a little more in popularity lately, but it was a lot of fun to write. I kind of went off the rails a little bit and just did a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Now, if I remember correctly, you're are you the one that you took ideas on Facebook about a story?
Yeah, so
What
I
was the
have
title of that? I know I read it, and I can't remember it was something about a bottle.
I did it twice.
Battle shrimp. Okay, that was the one I read.
So Alien Flu started as a sort of just a prompt led kind of fun thing to do on Facebook, where I asked for like a genre or subgenre of horror and main character and like different things, different prompts. And then I randomly did this thing, and the murder weapon was a doll. And so, and of
Huh,
course it's Cabbage Patch, but I couldn't say Cabbage Patch, so
right.
Right.
it's very Cabbage Patch like doll. But it had to be a mechanic in a girl's bedroom and post-apocalyptic with a killer doll. So I had a lot of fun with it, and so we decided, or I decided to do it again with Battle Shrimp for a New Year's Eve themed story because Alien Flu was Christmas, and it was fun. Battle Shrimp was definitely the name before the story.
Mhm.
Such a fun title.
Yeah,
So
I absolutely love it because it was like New Year's and the weapon had to be a bottle. Um, and it was on a ship, takes place on a ship. Was that one of the things?
let's see. See, I forget. That's why I have to do this. Location was a shrimp boat in the Gulf of Mexico, which is I live on the
Yeah.
coast here. And a random saying had to be, you put your right arm in, you take your right arm out. Murder weapon was a bottle of rum, and the subgenre was Lovecraftian or haunted.
Yeah.
It was
It's a fun idea.
Yeah, it
mhm.
was. And I read Battle Shrimp.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
and so I saw when you had posted about it, you're like, oh, the weapon's a bottle. Um, and you're like, oh, I know how this is gonna go. Bang, bang, or broken bottle and stab, right? But the way you did it was perfection because you're not ever gonna see it coming with
Thank you.
how the bottle actually is the weapon. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
It's always fun, right? To come up with different things.
yeah, yeah, it was absolutely. I mean, you should definitely do that again.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
going for Christmas for sure.
yeah,
Maybe how
yeah, do a Halloween one. Ooh, yeah, that would be fun.
Is
Look
it
at
a
me giving
Patreon
you.
thing or did you just do it blankly on Facebook? Just open it to everybody.
opened it to everybody. I think I copied it over to Twitter and Facebook.
Do you still
Uh,
do Twitter?
so I'm there because several authors I like are there, but I don't like I have a group chat going with some really good friends, but that's it. I
Have you
kind of
tried
pop,
Blue Sky?
huh?
Have you tried Blue Sky yet? Or whatever it's called?
On it. I don't really open it, but I
Yeah,
have
I
it.
know, right? It's there,
They,
but I never think about it. So
they say every time a new one comes out, a new social media, get on and claim your space, claim your name.
mhm,
And so I have it on Threads, on Blue Sky, on everything, TikTok, but it doesn't mean I'm there.
right.
If someone wants to tag me in something, they can see my profile and see a website and see more information. So
Nice.
don't have time to be on all of them.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, there's so many. Um, so tell us when you're writing, do you listen to music or do you have to have quiet?
It kind of varies, depending on how hard of a time I'm having concentrating, how loud the house is at the moment. Um, Come Join the Murder, I had noise canceling headphones. The kids still lived at home when I wrote that. We're now empty nesters, so it's a lot easier, right? Except for birds now are very loud. They have to get those headphones back out. But with Come Join the Murder, I played like if she was in the car playing music, I would try to play that music. Or if it was raining, I would play like storm noises or highway noises or whatever the scene was
Mhm.
to try to like get into that scene. With our Bigfoot novella, I did a lot of like hard rock kind of military sound because the main character was an army veteran and just kind of different. I like to do playlists on Spotify. Parachutes was very 90s playlist. The one I'm working on now, I'm not really listening to music while I'm doing that. So I'm kind of trying something different. I haven't been writing long enough to know what works. So I try everything differently and use a little bit of plotting and use a little bit of pantsing. Like it all changes And one day maybe I'll figure out what works the best.
Hmm.
But what works the best next year might not work the year after. So
Right.
I'm
right.
willing to
Yeah.
change it up and just keep trying new stuff.
Or it'll work for this book, but not that book.
Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
different subgenres or different headspaces, right?
Right.
Yep.
That's a good way to approach it, because I know so many people that are very, I do it X and this is the only way I'm going to do it. And then they don't do anything because they're doing X constantly. They don't try anything different. So,
Yeah.
And I work
and then
full
they
time.
complain. So,
So it's like you got to get it in when you can, how you can, right?
mhm.
Yeah, we're all out here living our lives, and very few can just write whenever they want. So
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that. So you just had Flush Communion come out in January. You got anything else in the works that maybe will be out by Texas AuthorCon or this year?
when is it? July? Is it July?
July.
July,
Yeah.
end of July.
Maybe, but I'm not making promises on Bigfoot book 2 and the final. I'm never doing a sequel again. And maybe that's probably the only thing that might even be out by July. Yeah. Some short stories and some anthologies and things, but not any soul work.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check out this Bigfoot book. What's it called?
It's the Easton Falls Massacre.
Okay.
Bigfoot. This is the old cover. That's the original cover. I don't know why I don't have it over here. That's not very writerly of me. I co-wrote it with my husband, who's also an author. He's done some short stories, and like a children's book that was like satirical. I don't want to even talk about what that's called. But he co-wrote it with me because the main character is an Army veteran. He's an Army veteran. A lot of the experiences were very similar to what he had. And it's funny because we had a reviewer say the main character was a gun-toting asshole. And I'm like, well, no,
Is that what you were going for? So,
he's not a gun-toting. My husband's not a gun-toting asshole, but the character was. I'm
right.
not. No one's perfect. That's my favorite thing to play with, is having like an unlikable protagonist and a likable antagonist. Like
Mhm.
good
I
people
love
doing
that.
for good reasons and bad people doing bad things for good. Like
Good
just
reasons. Yeah.
yeah, everyone's we all have a little monster in us, right? Like we're all
Mhm.
capable given the right circumstances. Like my first book, her kid died, and I could kill someone who killed my kid. I mean, I'd like to think I could, but I don't know if right in front of me if I could or not. It's easy to say, right? But you never know.
You never know. Oh, I love when a book has the unlikable protagonist and the likable antagonist. I love that scenario so much. And not even just that. I love when there's at least one character in a book that I don't like,
Mhm.
because it makes it more real for me, because I don't like everybody,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So if I'm reading a book and okay, yeah, sometimes I do like every character in the book, but not always, and it makes it more real when there's like at least one character that I'm like, I don't really like you. But
Yeah.
it's good for this, they work for the story. So
Or even like a main character you love, but maybe she's having a bad day, and that chapter she's kind of a bitch, because that's real. We're not
Yeah.
consistently the same character throughout our lives, and that's something I try to tell myself. And I have little notes everywhere about characterization, and like I tend to white room stuff. I underwrite on my first drafts, and pretty much dialogue. I love dialogue, and I forget, like they're just standing around in a white room doing nothing but talking, right? And so I have to go in and add all these sensory details, and I struggle with that a lot. Like I don't know if I'll ever write anything full length again, because it's too hard for my to add that in, because I think I'm coming to grips with the fact that maybe I'm just a sparse writer, and that's okay. Like not everything has to be Stephen King level descriptions.
So you don't want to Tolkien it? You're not gonna. Okay.
Definitely
yeah,
no
okay.
talk.
Be the Brian Sanderson of the horror
Right.
world.
15 books for every story. So
Yeah.
Gee, no, that'd be nice, right? I mean, he makes good money, and
Oh yeah.
everyone's sequels are the way to go, but I don't have the attention span or the memory capacity for sequels.
Could you
It's a
imagine
lot
the
to,
notes that
oh
these
my God,
people have to have in order to make these things go for books and books and books and books?
it's
Yep. I haven't
crazy.
even gotten that far into it. And I've got a ton of notes for Don, Texas. So
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
because Dawn has quite a few installments in it. Um, so yeah, it just because with Dawn, it's not like a straight sequel. You know, you're going future and past and all that. So you got to like remember who did what and where they were at this. So yeah, that's
yeah.
And you almost
very, very
hire
tricky.
a copy editor just to like pay someone else to reread everything and do it for you.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice to sometimes you have somebody like, oh, I'm just reading it. I'm okay, cool. I can ask them questions about what I wrote because then I don't have to go back and reread it. So what did you think about this? And did this character do anything and all that kind of stuff? So yeah.
I find I use the same like names over and over again because I forget what I name people. So I've started to try to keep a list by my desk, and so I'll be typing and I'll need a name and I'll look down and my index fingers on J. So a lot of my names start with the J. It's like I need to look elsewhere.
I think that's the worst part about writing is coming up with names
Yep.
Yes.
for characters. I
And then
hate
there's
that.
what is it's a rule, and it's the rule is the name of a woman's name, and it's something to the effect of, and it's not Tiffany, but like let's, for the sake of the discussion, say it's Tiffany, where this was a popular name in like the 1600s, but no one will believe that it was, so you can't use it.
Hmm.
There's some rule, I forgot what it's called. Have you heard of that?
No, but it makes sense when you're saying it out loud. It does feel
Yeah,
like something
Yeah.
like that.
it may be real to the time and the place, but it doesn't sound
Doesn't
real.
it, yeah, it doesn't sound real to modern readers or whatever.
Like
And you get
writing's
that
not
a lot too.
we have to make up things that are perfectly fine the way they are, but aren't believable. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I when I do that, I'll search for the time period I'm writing and then the name, famous names or popular names at the time, and half of them I'll be like, there's no way this is a name that anybody's gonna let me get away with. So,
Yeah.
so everybody's got to be John, Mark, and all that stuff. But
I
Yeah.
every
did
once
that
in a
with
while you'll come across somebody that's unique, and then you're like, oh, I can finally use something that's a little, just enough strange that people
not
might,
too much, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I've never ventured into writing something in the past, like far in the past, like the 1800s or 1920s or early 1900s. And I never thought about that names. Um,
And not only that, you're gonna need to look up their last names. You got
yeah,
to figure out that, and then you have to see, okay, they're actually maybe named because of a profession. So then you have to think of all that kind of stuff, and then it gets complicated the farther back you go.
yeah. Note to self, always write in the present or from
That's
the like 80s on, 70s
you know,
on.
it's that Bigfoot in Washington State, and I'll never venture outside of Texas again because I don't know the flora and the fauna and the names and the uh, I I didn't know anything, and I had to do a lot of research. And like you said, looking up the last names, I was like, okay, what last names are popular in this area because that's relevant, right? Like
Hmm.
I live on the Texas coast, so Hispanic last names are very popular here. Like it's very common where it wouldn't be really in Washington State, like in that time period. So it's
Yeah.
different. Gotta
Oh
Yeah.
take all.
man.
But then you know what? We do all this and no one cares. A person could
Oh,
be Miller and no one cares.
yeah. I've spent days researching for one line in a book just to
Yeah,
make sure I didn't get it wrong and nobody will say a word. Nobody ever realizes it. But if I
the
didn't have
line.
it right, somebody might
Yep.
say, "Oh, why didn't you do this correctly?" Because I have the line in there, nobody will say anything, but I'll never know if anybody actually picked up on what I spent
Yeah,
days researching. So,
it's the
Yeah.
job, right?
yep, it's a fun part about the job too, though, because that's why I did Don Texas the way I did it was so I could jump around and research and have fun. So,
I did mention, or we did mention in the Bigfoot book, someone was wearing a sports team hat, and my Google search was Washington, whatever, and
mhm.
it was the wrong Washington. And a book reviewer, a
Oh,
well-read beard, reached out and he was like, that's the wrong Washington. That's DC. This is Washington State. Like,
Yep, that's something you got to catch. So,
yeah.
And they get tricky when you start doing that, especially college teams too and stuff. So
And like, would they have played this other team? Like, they're in different divisions. You got to look all this stuff up that you don't really you wouldn't care about normally.
Note to self, never put sports in a story.
Never again. Never. No.
That's funny. So besides coming to Texas AuthorCon and Book Festival, where can people find your books?
HollyRaeGarcia.com is I actually have a store there where you can buy autograph books. And then on social media everywhere is Holly Rae Garcia. Pretty easy to find. So
And your books are on Amazon, and
yeah,
are you wide or just on Amazon?
The the paperbacks are all wide. One hardback I have is wide. The ebooks, one is wide, the rest are in KU. I saw a big reduction in income when I pulled out of KU. So whether I like it or not, I hate being exclusive because they make you be exclusive, but it's too much of a difference financially. So everything else will be in KU from here on out, probably. But I have one wide. In
I'm
fact,
with you.
what's funny, it just got put into Hoopla.
Oh,
2
cool.
years after submitting, 2 years it took
Wow.
from a draft to digital to Hoopla. They say it takes a long time, but it's crazy. I got the
Yeah, it
email. I
is
was like,
2 years.
it's not already there.
Yeah, like, I forgot all about this.
I did for funny.
All right, so we'll have a link to Holly's website in the description of the video. We'll also have a link to the Eventbrite site for the event, so you can go and grab your free ticket. And Holly, it's been wonderful talking with you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
And
having me. It was fun.
yeah, and we will see you in July.
Cool. Bye.
Take it easy.
You too.